Okay, good morning, everyone. If you can hear me, welcome to this all important session, which is about to get on the way. I'm glad to have you here. So, if you can hear me, can you try engaging with the comment section, the chat section on your channel? Just drop a comment. Let me be sure that you can hear me as we get the session started. Welcome, everyone. You can just drop a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, depending on which part of the world you're joining from. Okay, I can see responses. Good morning, Solomon. Thank you for confirming. Good morning, Ezekiel. Good morning, Nderen Onguga. Good morning, Olanide Jeremiah. Good morning, Yonenge Vese. Right. Thank you so much for confirming that you can hear me. A few more minutes and we'll be on the way. I can assure you that the session is heavily packed and you are going to enjoy every moment that you are spending here. So keep your notepads handy, and you can also do well to share with people who are on your network who can also find this engagement very useful. Okay, Odo, can you hear me now? Can you confirm if you can hear me? I see. Okay, great. Thank you for that confirmation. Right. So we are going to get started. Right. Right, so good enough. This is a live session and it's going to remain on the channel. So the policy is that if people have joined early, let us not keep them waiting for too long. So we are going to get started. Thank you so much, everyone who has joined so far. We're going to begin the session right away. Okay, let me confirm that you all can still hear me. Can you still hear me? Please confirm that you can hear me. Okay, go on the mask, confirm. You said yes. AB Sports, I'm sure you're just confirming that you can hear me too. And I get one more confirmation, it's 10:09. So I'm sure that I'm audible to all of you and also visible. My video is on. Okay, yes, loud and clear. Thank you so much for that confirmation. So let us get started. And I want to start this. I'll put my screen on presentation now. I'll put my screen on presentation now. And yeah, so I felt the need to do this for principally one reason. The reason that I have also had the privilege of going through the classroom and being taught by several lecturers. Uh, okay, I'm seeing a comment in the chat. Okay, Modo says, kindly assist. I joined but can't hear. Godo, can you drop off and try to join again? I think I am audible. Okay, I'm still getting another response again that I can't hear you. But can you try maybe dropping off? Again, can we hear me? Is there anyone who can hear me? I would appreciate that. I have two persons who say they can't hear me. Let me be sure that it's not a technical glitch on my end. Okay. Oh, great, great. Thank you very much for confirming. Right. So this was put together to be able to give perspective and context to the different powers, or I even call it superpowers that we all have. And this precisely was targeted for those who are in the academia or research spaces. But as I had this put out, people kept asking me, well, how about those who are not in research? Can they also participate? And then I realized that actually, when you look at life, right, it can be applied in different ways as far as knowledge is concerned. So thinking about that, I felt, okay, as long as you're open to learning, there's something you can pick here, whether you're a lecturer actively or not, that you will find valuable. I have had the pleasure of meeting people, like I said, lecturers on this side of our country, Nigeria. Um, and this is something we can all relate to. You know, we all did undergraduate projects or postgraduate projects before we were awarded our undergraduate degrees or postgraduate degrees. And if I ask us now to tell me what happened afterwards, most of us will agree or will say that it is sitting somewhere in a university on a shelf gathering dust. As those of you who are in the academic space, the question we must all ask and answer is, can there be more? I met a couple of professors in the US last year and this year too. And one thing that I kept seeing consistent across all of them was that despite the fact that they were in the academic space, they were able to commercialize what they were doing. I met a professor who had secured a $10 million grant from an international organization to run a research. I met a lot of them who were in the academia, yet were saying, well, I've won this grant, I've set up this business, all trying to be able to give value beyond what they were doing in the classroom. And now what that taught me was that there is still something that we are missing as a country, predominantly in Nigeria. And I'm not even saying it's just a peculiar thing with Nigeria, but because I am from here, I see that most people in the academic space naturally rely on what comes at the end of the month from government coffers. And if anything goes wrong, let's say a strike happens now, they become frustrated. But I believe that because you dish out knowledge on a daily basis to students, because you are researching, there can be commercial value to that. And that is why through the I would say sponsorship, because this entire session is powered by Up 17 Innovation Space, right? We're making it possible to put this together where I would share this knowledge at no cost to you, of course, on how to be able to achieve academic influence beyond lecture halls as a lecturer, as a researcher, or whatever field that it is you are playing in. So let us get started. What are we looking to achieve together this morning? First is to understand the concept of personal branding as it concerns you in the academia or in the research space and why it matters. Then we'll talk about the digital space and how it offers tremendous opportunities for you to be able to leverage and grow. And then, of course, we'll talk about how to build a personal brand, how to network, and how to access global opportunities. So, who am I? There's someone in front of you who is going to be speaking with you for a couple of minutes into an hour. So this is basically my background. I'm a veterinary doctor. I'm also the founder of Vet Connect, Mobile Vets, co-founder of Hub 17 Innovation Space. I'm an SDG champion and practitioner. What that means, like I try to explain, is that I live and breathe the SDGs in practical ways in ensuring that whether it's myself or the people I relate to or the organizations I support, how they can clearly find bearing in terms of contributing to the global agenda to building a safer and prosperous world by 2030. Most recently, I was awarded as a top agri-food pioneer by the World Food Prize Foundation, an award I was delighted to receive in Des Moines, Iowa. I am also a social entrepreneur and business mentor. I support businesses, I support organizations in helping put together structure and systems that help them thrive and build sustainable models. I'm a community managers lead at Mind the Gap. I'm also a lead facilitator at Jobberman Nigeria in Benue State. I am an advocacy and engagement lead with the Nigerian Youth SDGs Network. I'm a 2023 Mandela Washington Fellow, a Pamoja Founders Fellow 2024, a 2024 MasterCard Fast Fellow. I'm a member of the International Leadership Association, an alumni of the Young Political Leadership School for Africa, and I've had the pleasure of an honor of winning multiple grants and awards in the last, I would say, 6 to 7 years of doing what I do. And for me, if I was going to summarize myself, I would say I'm that person who is passionate about impact, and I like to contribute to anything that advances humanity forward. So thank you so much again for joining. So let's begin. What are really the challenges for those in the academic space? What are really the challenges for those in the research space? The first thing that you think about is limited visibility. And this is on two sides, both for the opportunities they are seeking and for themselves. Because, like I said, the problem here on principle is not that you are not qualified for these opportunities. Is that fact that as an academia or as a researcher, your work doesn't have a lot of exposure. No one sometimes even knows about what you're doing. Then you don't even know how to navigate the funding hurdles as far as trying to access funding is concerned for your ideas. And then you're living in a bubble, right? You're isolated. No one knows about you. You're not connected. You probably go to your lab, you finish your work, you pick your bag, you go home, you go to your lecture hall, you lecture. You probably are online, but no one knows about you, right? What then are also the opportunities? They are global in nature. And whether it's in terms of funding, whether it's in terms of collaboration, whether it's in terms of career growth, they exist in their numbers. And today, what we are going to be achieving together is understanding how clearly you can position yourself to be able to achieve all of those objectives. Let's start with personal branding. What is personal branding? I mean, as a person, what would you say personal branding is? How do you even understand the concept and how can you even begin to apply it? The concept of personal branding is simply your reputation and the value you offer. It's as simple as that. So when you think about personal branding as a lecturer, it's about narrowing down to the value you give to students, the value you give to your colleagues, the value you give to the academic environment that you come from, what they know you for. So this is not about a business now where I can say, if you think about Facebook, the brand message of Facebook is about connectivity. No, this is about you, where when they think about you, something resonates. So let's think about a couple of personal brand examples. What comes to your mind when you think about Martin Luther King, right? What comes to your mind? You think about social justice. You think about I have a dream. You think about someone who was trying to create or advocate for equity or equality for the Black race. That is a brand. So the question now you need to throw back to yourself is, when you think about yourself, what comes to your mind? That is your personal brand. Then another one that you can also reflect on is in terms of why is it important? A brand is your identity, like the definition goes. So that means that if you are going to think about yourself as a value provider, you now need to ask yourself how the other person also perceives you. So you see, the thing about marketing ourselves, because once you're a personal brand, you're marketing yourself. The thing about marketing yourself is that you can have what you are intending to market, and if you do not market it correctly, you might be sending the wrong message. So as lecturers, as those in the academia, it is important to ensure that the message that you're communicating as far as your brand is concerned is crystal and is clear. Then we'll talk about how you can be able to identify your unique proposition as a lecturer, how you can define your target audience, and how you can clearly craft and communicate a consistent message. That is what we are going to be working through together, amongst other things. So first and foremost, if we're talking about choosing a social media platform to communicate that personal brand of yours, which one are we going to go for? And because this training or this masterclass is structured to speak fundamentally to lecturers and to research professionals, I am speaking to three core platforms. I am not saying you should not be on any other one. I'm just saying, for me, I am focusing on these three. First, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a professional networking platform, right? And like they say, if you want to grow in the corporate space, LinkedIn is one place to be, because you're able to connect to fellow professionals, to other organizations that are doing things that are similar to what you're doing, whether as someone who is looking to hire, looking to get scholarship opportunities, and the likes. Next, another platform to consider is ResearchGate. And for those of us in the academic space, you know that you can build your profile here, you can put up your academic work and all. And then another one is X, formerly called Twitter, right? This is a micro blogging platform that has a lot of value in terms of networking, in terms of sharing, in terms of steering very, very, very germane conversations, right? So these three platforms are platforms that every single professional who is working intensely around academia and research should be. So the question to you now, if you are a lecturer on this call, if you are a researcher, is, are you on all three platforms? Of course, we are going to get there in terms of how you can jump on all of them and ensure that you are fully optimized. But what I want you to take away from here is that you are supposed to be here, because this is where it happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen on Facebook. I'm not saying it doesn't happen on Instagram. I'm not saying it doesn't happen on TikTok. But I'm saying that in narrowing down to top three platforms that every professional should think of being on, Facebook is of course on that list. But for the niche that I'm speaking to, you want to look at LinkedIn, you want to look at X, you want to look at ResearchGate. Now, why is online networking even important? First is because of the global network and reach that it gives you potentially. If you check your online platforms and your friend list, you would agree with me that you're connected to people from outside your state, you're connected to people from outside your country, you're connected to people from outside your continent. So online networking gives you that potential reach at a global scale. right? It also helps you open up opportunities for collaboration. Now, as a lecturer, as a researcher, you are not bound by the walls of your classroom or your research lab. You can be able to leverage these platforms to connect extensively to a wide range of audience that are looking to work with you, that are looking to fund you, that are interested in amplifying your work, or are even looking for mentorship. And there's a way to be able to go around this, but you have to start somewhere. In talking about accessing funding opportunities or collaboration opportunities, or even accessing or leveraging platforms, there's something that you must pay attention to as a professional. First, let's talk about funding. Everybody needs it. As a researcher, as a lecturer. Now, remember that for you, one of the things that you pay attention to is that if you're a lecturer, you need to grow through the profession. If you entered with a bachelor's degree, you need to get a master's, you need to get a PhD, you need to attend conferences, you need to present papers, you need to fund research and all of that. This requires a lot of money. And there is a way to be able to go around it. If you're a researcher, for your research to be efficient, you need to have resources to set up a standard lab. You need to fund your maybe research assistant. In fact, if you look at what happens across the world, in the last 3 months, a lot of opportunities were coming out. You saw people saying, I'm hiring a PhD student, I'm hiring a master's student, I'm hiring a research assistant, I'm hiring a postdoc. Most of these people are individuals, not even institutions. And they are doing that because they were able to access funding somewhere. So as a lecturer on this course, as a researcher, how do you also position yourself in a way that gives you the latitude to be able to connect and access these global opportunities so that you yourself can also be in a place where you can be able to leverage these resources in driving or advancing your research interest? So that is something you need to pay attention to. And because you are seeking for something, one thing you cannot take away is trying to master the art of selling yourself. And in business, we call that pitching, right? You need to be able to communicate. So because most times people think pitching is just for business owners. No, as long as you want people to identify you, as long as you want people to know who you are and what you're doing, you must pitch yourself to them. If you're a researcher, someone will approach you. You need to communicate to yourself to say, well, my name is Dr. Toby, and I am a researcher in maybe neglected tropical diseases. I have worked on Lassa fever for the last XYZ. This is the impact it has been making in the work I do. My research outcomes have been cited in. You are pitching yourself. You are validating what you have done so that people are interested. So it is important for you to know that in terms of accessing funding, collaboration, and the platforms to grow, you must first and foremost put yourself out there. Now, another thing that I want to ask you to reflect on is, if we have professionals in other climes attracting these resources and inviting professionals to join them, why can't we do the same thing? It's simply about positioning, because opportunities now are very global. Early this morning, I was even having a conversation with a colleague when I saw a call, and then I shared it. So the next thing that came to my mind is, how can we be able to align? And this is one thing I will speak more to as we go forward. How can we align in a way that we even close ranks? There's a different slide on that, with what is happening in the academia and what is happening in the private space. So how then do you position yourself for influence? First, you need to build your personal brand. And in this case, I'm talking about what you're doing offline and online. By offline, of course, you're interacting with your students if you interact physically or even virtually. How you're if I went to your colleague now and asked them, if I decided to do an interview of you with your colleagues, how many of them can say for sure what you're doing? And this is not about saying that you are a lecturer in Uni Ibadan or in University of Agriculture Makodi or Justum, which is now called, or Benue State University. No. Beyond that generic knowledge of you, how deep can they go? If they saw an opportunity in a particular field, will your name come to their head? That is what personal branding is. Then you need to be able to optimize your social media presence. Remember, for the purpose of our engagement today, I've narrowed down to LinkedIn, ResearchGate, and an X. But I'm not saying you cannot be on other platforms. But what I say can be applied across board. And let me give you a case in point so that will make sense of what I'm saying. In terms of social media optimization, I am talking about first your profile picture. Some will say, well, social media is for flexing and it's for cruise. No, it's a very important component. Perhaps you would agree with me that sometimes when you are applying for something that they ask you to impute your social media handles, there's a reason for that. Organizations, funding partners today are interested in knowing what you're doing on your social media platform. So you need to be able to optimize it. Put a professional picture, type your names very clearly, put a short bio. Your content online should align with your interest. I'm not saying don't say other things, but if someone comes on your social media platform, it should reflect some level of professionalism. And then finally, you need to set SMART goals. SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. What this means is that, let's say you are a professional, whether researcher or lecturer, who has never won a grant in your life before. If you now say that you're setting a goal to win $1 million in grant funding in 2025, without clearly defining a path to achieving that, then that is not a SMART goal. So what that means is that for you to clearly map out your journey for 2025 as a lecturer or as a researcher, you need to communicate in terms of specifics. So let's say you want to apply 20 funded opportunities in 2025. Even the 20 is still not a SMART goal. How are you going to do it? Break it over a couple of maybe every month you can decide to do 5, right? That way we can measure and track what. So that is also something to be able to put at the back of your mind as we move forward. So for you to be able to achieve this influence we're talking about, 3 things you pay attention to: your personal brand, your social media presence, and ensuring that every goal you set ticks the SMART ideology. So let's start with optimizing your online presence. Consistency is key. I've said this already. And your bio is like your pitch. If I say, for instance, that I am a professional in this space, or a professional in helping people win grants, and that is put on my timeline, and you come there and you see it, it tells you the message very, very clearly. So your bio needs to be actionable. Your bio is not a place for you to go and say that you are the first child of your family, or you are from Benue State, or you are from this part of the country. No, your bio is meant to speak dispassionately about your areas of core competence, your interests, your achievement, and your expertise. And let me give you a practical example. If you check me on LinkedIn, or if you ask me to tell you or pitch to you, I can say this: I am a veterinary professional, right, who has a degree in veterinary medicine, a master's degree in veterinary a master's degree in veterinary preventive medicine, right? I have competence as a professional in building strategy for entrepreneurs and also supporting development initiatives. I'm just trying to come up with something to give you action words. I didn't say anything here that is passive. I am speaking to my area of core competence, right? And when you even say that, you can now validate it. In the last 5 years, in the last 10 years, I have been able to support organizations raise over $1 million in grant funding. That is also still an example. I'm just trying to communicate the core things that should be available in your bio on your social media platform. Then you are allowed to use hashtags, right? Hashtags are important because they help you jump on trends. So if there is something trending today and you leverage that hashtag, someone goes and is searching for it, the person can be able to find you. So that is also something to be able to consider as far as optimizing your social media platforms are concerned and overall online presence. In fact, some people go to the point of even building personal websites. If you think you have gone to that level, good enough, there are several templates and free platforms that you can be able to use. WordPress, Google Sites, these are all free platforms that you can be able to build free websites on. So if something you want to even go to that extent, you can start. But a starting point can be just your already existing social media platforms where you quickly optimize them, put on professional pictures, put your information completely, put an accessible contact. It could be your email, it could be your phone number, it could be a link that people can access your bio. Because at the end of the day, what we're all doing is selling ourselves. So how about communicating yourself with respect to fully optimizing your curriculum vitae, or CV as it's called, or your resume? Of course, you should know that your CV and resume are not the same. They are similar, but they have differences. A CV is a more exhaustive document about your professional background and achievements. So a CV can be as much as 20 pages, right? But sometimes, even for standard use, most times they will tell you your CV should be around 3 pages. Your resume is a more detailed document that, no, not more detailed, sorry, more specific document that speaks to your core alignment for a role that you are applying for. So what that means is that if you have experience in livestock production, but you are applying for a role in marketing, because there's no connection, you need to remove that one out and leave only something that speaks to the application you're putting in. So a resume is more specific, and it's mostly between 1 to 2 pages. A CV can be as much as 20 pages. It's more exhaustive and more detailed, right? Cover letters are also very, very important documents that you should understand in terms of personal branding. Your cover letter is more like a pitch, and the anatomy of a cover letter speaks to 4 things. First, the introduction, where you are opening why you're applying for or sending in this document for a particular role or proposal or whatever it is. The second paragraph talks about your core competence in aligning with the role that you're seeking to seek funding or seek employment for. Because even in terms of seeking funding opportunities, they will ask you to send a CV, they could ask you to send a resume, they could ask you to send a cover letter. Then the third one speaks to your experience. So in this competence, this is what you have achieved. Then the fourth one is a call to action to say, based on everything you have said, this is how effectively aligned you are about this role. And the good thing is that there are several templates online, but the anatomy is pretty same. Then all these documents need to have a very professional layout. So you don't want to have, so some do's and don'ts of CV and cover letter writing. Please, no one is interested in where you were born. No one is interested in the year you were born. No one is interested in your gender. So all that personal bio where you put your gender, your age, your country, your nationality, your tribe, if those information, or if that information is requested, by all means put it in. If it is not, please remove it. So your CV should start with your full name, your email address, your phone number, and you can attach your LinkedIn profile link, right? If you have. It moves on to talking about your professional background. And this is you just tying together a short paragraph that speaks to your expertise and your interest. Then you go on in whether if it's an academic or professional CV or work-based CV, you can now talk about your academic qualifications. Then you can, and in academic qualifications, be clear. If it is about academic CV, talk about what did you achieve in the academic space. Did you graduate to first class? Did you do a thesis that was published? Speak to that. Then you move on to your work experience. Don't just say that you work as a sales marketer. What did you achieve there? Spare a line. Then what are your achievements? What are your interests? And please, recommendations are provided on request. That's the standard. So you can, if that is requested, you can add it. Because most times, or if you're adding it, ensure that you notify those who you have added their information. Because most times, the people that are requesting this information might decide to check or reach out to the people that you added. You want them to be able to speak favorably about you. So these are three things that you want to pay attention to as far as putting yourself together is concerned. Your CV, it needs to be well tailored, your cover letters. And another question I get sometimes is, for cover letters, should they be attached to an email or should they be put in the body of the email? It depends. If they don't ask you, put it in the body of the email. Because when they open the email, they are going to read it. Or you can decide to put it in the body of the email and also upload it. The whole idea is that a lot of people are also contesting for what you are contesting for. You want to just put out your best help. And even if it's you're attaching it as an email attachment, ensure to capture a hook or something that will interest those who are looking to access that information. Right. See if I have any question in the chat section so far. Can you confirm if you can still hear me? If I'm still audible, please, can you confirm in the chat section? Am I still audible? Hello, if you can hear me, can you confirm, please, in the chat section so that I can be sure that I am still audible? Right. Thank you so much, sir, for the confirmation. So now let's talk about a very important conversation, which for many people in the academic space, they ignore. As someone in the research or academic space, your value does not start and stop in a classroom. I think I've established that already. What that means is that your intellectual prowess or the knowledge you've garnered over the years is your selling point. In the US, some of these companies I mentioned I met, or some of these lecturers and researchers that I met, were working for big companies. That did not stop them from working in the academic space, but they were doing very valuable research for them. In this country, we have the likes of Dangote, we have the likes of Tony Elumelu, we have Oando, we have Otedola, we have think of any big name or big company which is both indigenous or those that have gained market share in Nigeria. They play across different sectors ranging from agriculture, finance, climate, water, automobiles. They spread across different areas. What this means is that they present an opportunity because every business that is evolving has a dedicated research lab where they are researching and improving on our products which they will be churning out. As someone who is in the academia, you have an opportunity to be able to position yourself based on your areas of expertise in order that you can attract these organizations to be able to meet with them and deliver value based on what you do. And how do you do that? First, you need to be able to identify research that is marketable. So every year you receive students who join your lab. Every year you receive students who you supervise and then they do their research, they bind, they submit your work. Then what next? How can you identify something that has prospects, that beyond just the research that they will conduct and then bind and defend and go, how can that be moved beyond that to be able to add to what is happening in the market so that you can get value for it? A professor, which I mentioned, in fact, I didn't mention this one. This is even different. The man got a research grant of $25 million. So this is not a business person. He is a researcher in the academia. He teaches students, yet he was able to access this amount of money to be able to carry out research in terms of food security. So you need, as a lecturer and as a researcher, to think beyond just what is happening in the classroom. Ask yourself, with all this knowledge that you have garnered over the years, how can you be able to identify a marketable research area? How can you build a business model canvas around it? A business model canvas is a business term, and is simply a term that refers to helping a business understand how it captures, delivers, and also retains value. So in your case, as a researcher, what would your business model be? How will your business model canvas look like? And the business model canvas has about 9 building blocks. Let me try to see if I can remember all blocks I mentioned, right? It talks about potentially your business partner. And in this case, who is going to be your partner in the industry that your research would connect to? What is going to be your value proposition? Who is going to be the target audience for the value that you're looking to communicate? How are you going to make money off it? Of course, we're going to talk more about that. Then engaging stakeholders. And in this engagement of stakeholders, the place to go is in conversations around, whether it's conferences. You need to ask yourself, as a researcher, when was the last time you attended any conference? When was the last time you participated in any activity that adds value to the work that you do? How vast is the network you're building looking like? This is something you need to pay attention to, because it is in conferences like this that you're able to network, that you're able to grow your network. Now, if you have thought about all of these things that I said, let's now look at how you are able to commercialize every single thing that we're saying. And this is where you also now begin to build a network of like minds. Think about your students. Beyond just having them through your class, give them lectures and all of that, what else happens? When they bind their work and they go, what else happens? How can you be able to build synergy and ensure that that thing that you're even giving them as research topics has commercial value, so that at the point when they are able to get this knowledge and build on it, you are able to take it from there to guide them on a journey to get tremendous value. That is something to consider. So in terms of doing this, remember, I've emphasized already that as lecturers, your strength lies in what you offer intellectually. So how then do you even protect your innovations? How do you protect those amazing ideas that you've built over time? 3 things. You can do this through patents. You can do this through trademarks. You can do this through copyright. They don't mean the same thing, but they are all what we call IPs, or intellectual properties. As a lecturer, you can be able to use any of them. As a researcher, you can use any of them. As a business owner, you can use any of them depending on your use cases. Now, let me explain. What is a patent? A patent is simply an invention that you have developed and you hold exclusive rights to. So it becomes a patent when, of course, you have filed it and it has been accepted by law. So what that means is that if you discover a new way of, let's say you wake up today, I know that I've heard this already, that some people have built vehicles that can use water to power itself. Let's say you build a vehicle that uses gas, no, like, gas is too generic because we have CNG now. Let's say you have built a vehicle that uses oxygen to work with, and you patent it. Nobody can go and do that without contacting you. And because of that, you are going to get value for it. Think about the seatbelt that we put in our cars when we're driving. Just think about whoever it is that developed that initiative. That person would obviously keep any generations to generations. I don't expect the person to be alive now, but the generations will continue earning from that innovation. Then what are trademarks? So trademarks are those designs, those industrial designs that you come up with, and it's closely related to patents. But for trademarks, you can be thinking about your name. People have trademarked their name. If you remember when Facebook wanted to move to Meta, they had to pay the person who had gotten that name before them. If you have done some academic research that is groundbreaking, you can be able to also trademark it. If you have done designs, you have logos. So for instance, my own brand, I have trademarks. I have copyrights on what I do, right? So you cannot just wake up and use it without my permission. That is something you can explore too as an academia. Then copyrights. Copyrights are more or less creative works. Think of copyrights. If you build a website, for instance, today, that code, you can copyright it as if you built it from scratch. If you develop a write-up or you write a book, you can copyright it. That's why if you go and just print somebody's book without citing the person can sue you. And for those of us in research and academia, we can relate to copyrights very well because you cannot just cite anybody's work without their permission. So it's important for you to look across this and ask yourself, which ones can you leverage? So that way, you don't have to say you will leave your job to go and start a business. You will know that you can just build initiatives, locate brands, and go to them and make these proposals without fear of your idea being stolen because you have protected it by law. So how do you now integrate all of these things? Personal branding is important. And in terms of personal branding, while it's online, you can also pay attention to that offline. And then intellectual property protection. These are the three elements that I want all of us to take home this morning as strong lessons for us in strengthening what we do. So how do you begin this journey? Ask yourself, is my social media platforms, are they fully optimized to help me take advantage of the opportunities that are available out there everywhere? Secondly, do I even know how to access these resources? Do I know how to put together Google searches that help me access them? I tell people that research is a skill. I send people to sometimes find things for me online. They will go, they will not find it. I'll go and then I'll still find it. Research is a skill. Google is like garbage in, garbage out. If you do not know how to ask the questions, you will not get the answers you're looking out for. And how can you also position yourself in terms of ensuring that when these opportunities come, you grab them? In way of closing, you must pay very close attention to being very intentional to everything I've said. You can apply for 50 opportunities, you might not get one. One thing you should know is that if you clearly position yourself in a way that puts you out there and shows people the work you're doing, you can be able to build extra resources of just what you're earning as a lecturer or as a researcher. So as you get into 2025, stop thinking that your life starts and stops with the paycheck you get from government. You can be a consultant. It's value. You can put together proposals. You can be in the academic space and partner with people who are in the private sector. Put together proposals, submit. You can go back and dust all of the projects that you have given students to do over the years and ask yourself the ones that have commercial value based on the steps that I shared. And if there are any one, you now take it forward. How can you build a business case out of it? How can you approach these companies and help them identify the emerging trends? Because as researchers, You are supposed to be the ones to tell us where the world is tilting to. So if you think tomorrow, for instance, people will start using other things to build other than cement, how can you convince a Dangote to fund you to be able to take that forward? That is a conversation to be able to think on. So I am going to stop at this point to take questions from us if there are any. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and I hope that you got value. So if you can chat me up your questions in the chat sections if there are any, I will now be happy to answer them. I'm looking at the chat section now to see if there are any questions. Please confirm that you are hearing me. I have a question here. Please name of the application you used in making these slides. All right, Mubarak, thank you very much. So I used Gamma AI to generate these slides. You can Google it, Gamma AI. Just Google it and it's going to come up. It's a wonderful resource. In fact, a friend and a colleague just introduced me to it not too long ago. And you know, because my strong suit is not around slide preparation, so I just needed this to be able to put this together, and it came out pretty fine. So that's something you can use. So if there are any questions on everything I've said, please do well to ask in the chat section, and I will be happy to answer you. Right. So, all right, I'm seeing feedback so far. Okay, Celestine says loud and clear. Kuma, you're loud. Thank you. Okay, Khalid, thank you very much too. Dr. Benedict Onoja, inspiring session. Thank you very much, sir. So do we have any questions? This is the opportunity to ask any questions. Are those specific things that you wanted me to speak on that I didn't? Are you super pumped now to be able to go back and fully optimize your presence online? And let me say this, I think I didn't capture this in my presentation, but you can be able to build a pattern around your engagements on social media. You can build what we call a social media calendar for personal growth and development. What that means is you can decide how you want to communicate online. So it could be that you want to communicate 3 times a week, maybe on a Monday, on a Wednesday, and on a Friday. So that way you decide what you want to talk about. Is it about the work you're doing? Is it about communicating to a critical component of the industry you're playing in? Whatever that interest is, it is important for you to speak. The world is very competitive today. A lot of us are doing remarkable things, but no one knows about us because we are not visible, or we are visible but we are not putting the work in. So today, as you move forward from here, don't think that your life starts and revolves around what you're doing in the university walls or in your research lab. Put it out there. There are people who are looking to collaborate with you. There are people who are looking to fund you. There are people who are looking to recommend you to organizations, but they cannot do that if you do not generate traction through your digital footprint. And even when you start posting in 2025, no one says you should not go back and share about what you've been doing for as many years as possible. So I believe we all got value. I do not see any question in the chat section. I will still wait and get feedback from us, so that at the turn of 11, we will now officially bring the session to a close. I'm still looking to see if there are any questions. Okay, Dr. Edward, thank you so much for your feedback. Very inspiring and insightful. Thank you so much, everyone. And yes, you can do well to share your feedback. What is your strong takeaway from the session today? Did you get value? What did you take away? What are you looking to implement? Okay, Gawon says, thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful presentation. As a lecturer for many years now, but I have learned a lot from this presentation. Thank you so much, sir. And I hope that you are able to also apply all of the lessons gained from here, so that you can even do more, not just for yourself, but also those that you impact knowledge in. That way, we don't think about these things as if it's just an end in itself, but a means to an end. Knowledge is supposed to be something that will liberate. So we should not be those people who are their custodians, who will just do our work and then keep it in a corner. Let people know about it. And one thing I've realized with my interaction, again, like I said, with these people, with lecturers, with researchers across different parts of the world, is that they are not ashamed of sharing their stories. They communicate what they are doing. They talk about it. You should also do the same thing. As a lecturer, at the end of the week, what was that thing that was phenomenal? What was the experience you had in class? What was that question your student asked you that sparked a thought process in your mind? Think about all of these things. As a researcher, what is the next big thing happening in the research space? How can you start positioning yourself to leverage all of that? People are receiving funding in this country to set up labs. You know you have the competence, you have the capacity. How can you also tap into opportunities that do this, right? Today is a master class, so I cannot, of course, exhaust everything. There are several sites, and what I probably might do for everyone is to compile a list of these sites so that you're able to be in the loop. But more importantly, it's on you to be able to take this journey forward. So for those who would be interested in taking this forward, we would give you the communications on how you would do that, and then we would see how we can do one-on-ones with those who are interested. Of course, that's going to be probably a premium service, but we would communicate it accordingly. So thank you so much, everyone. I do not see any other question, so I think we are going to bring our presentation at this point to a close. Thank you for joining, and I hope that we all got value, and we are going to implement it in advancing our personal and professional goals as researchers and as lecturers in 2025. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'm delighted to have anchored this session. Thank you, Hub 17 Innovation Space, for powering this engagement. I hope you continue to add value as much as possible. Okay, Dr. Victor, who is asking the question, is my hashtag different from my name on Twitter X? Yes, sir. So your name is your name. It's like your username on that platform. A hashtag is let me give an example. If we are talking about food, and you decide to write food, F-O-D, and you write food, F-O-D, a hashtag goes before that. That is a hashtag. Once you write something close together and you put a hashtag sign to it, that is hashtag. That's simply the meaning. Your username is different entirely. It's that name that we know you on X. So if I go on X now and I type Victor Who, right, the name that comes out, that is your name. A hashtag is, you can now decide to even turn your name to a hashtag. If you now write Victor Who together and you put a hashtag at the end of it, it becomes a hashtag. And we use hashtags because it serves as a unique identifier. So if we decide now to use a hashtag for this session, it could be hashtag academic influence beyond lecture halls. Of course, that's quite long, but that could be a hashtag. It could be hashtag beyond lecture halls, hashtag academic influence. These are the things that and these are so they might be related, but they are not the same. Okay, so you said I was once asked if my ID or address. Okay. Oh, so your user ID, most times what they will ask you for is your sometimes they'll ask you for your link. But if they ask you for your ID, what you can do, especially if they are not asking you to fix your name, is to go on your profile. If you go on your profile, whether on LinkedIn, whether on Facebook, whether on Twitter, you will see that it has your name at. So for instance, if you check me on LinkedIn, you will see that my username is at Shadrach Akpen. If you search me on Facebook, it's at Shadrach Akpen. If you search me on X, I think it's at Stacey Akpen. So at your name, that is your username. Hashtag your name, that's a hashtag. All right. Thank you so much. I do not see any other question. Thank you. You can, this is a recorded session and it's going to be available on this channel. So you are free to engage with it. You're free to share it to get more persons to benefit from it as much as possible. So thank you so much, everyone. And I wish you all a more productive weekend, a wonderful Christmas and New Year celebrations, and a 2025 with value and influence and impact beyond lecture halls. Thank you, everyone, and over from me. Bye now.